Okay, I know Carlos is parking. Moon said he would be a little bit late, so I'm going to call us to order. Good morning. Welcome to our special meeting on redistricting, everyone. So I think what we'll do is, since we're waiting on two members to get situated, letting you know process this morning, because our 10 a.m. meeting is posted at 10 a.m., we're going to break and do council, and then our LDC meeting and our LUDGE meeting that need to happen today. But it sounds like they're pretty quick, and then we'll reconvene for redistricting again. Am I correct about that, Leanne? Okay, good. So why don't we do this before we ask Michelle and Fernando to get us started with their presentation. I'll turn to council members for any opening comments or consideration. Good morning, Carlos. That you have in the process that'll help it get us started, and then we'll see how far we can get with staff presentation as well. Gina, go ahead, Fernando. Did you have anything before we get started? Is that okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Yes, Mayor Pro Tem Bivens.
Thank you. I have some written comments that I prepared because I want to be very thorough, and I hope that I can get the attention of everybody on the council on this. One thing I've heard from citizens all around the city is they do not believe it is appropriate for council members to be involved at all in the drawing of these district lines as we go through this process. I have stated the same in principle, but I want everyone to hear the role that only a council member for a specific district can play. For example, one map that well-meaning people put together some time ago showed District 5 losing historic Stop 6. That was crazy. That was what I call bat spit crazy. And so as the council member, I was able to tell people, whoever would listen, that when we got single member districts, it started at the heart of Stop 6. And so that was allowed to be put back in there. I will tell you, there's a map right now that would split the neighborhoods of Rosemont and South Hills. The history of these well-functioning neighborhoods is known throughout this city, and I will be supporting the council members' assessment of that proposed change. Another map also shows Overton Park and Overton Park East, as well as Colonial Hills, as being manipulated, disturbing the organic flow that only neighborhoods that work well together can generate. I will be supporting the council members representing those areas as well, just so y'all know. I have been presented plans that would see portions of my district be separated in the interest of creating another Hispanic district. Those plans make sense and come in an area of my district that has better affinity with other districts. So I support that idea, those ideas. But this is how council members try to help in this process. And I pledge my word to work with everybody around the table. I will tell you, it has been so disruptive. I actually prayed this morning for this process because it is not good for our citizens to question our integrity, our input, and our sincerity in this process. And so that's what I share with you guys this morning, and I hope you will hear that in the spirit in which it is given, which is to set a tone of congeniality. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Any other opening comments from council members? No? Perfect. Fernando, we'll let you have it.
Thank you, ma'am. Good morning, folks. Today's redistricting meeting is essentially a continuation of a discussion the council had last Tuesday. You'll recall we discussed two proposed redistricting maps known as version 2 and version 3. We reached agreement on versions 2 and versions 3, and subsequently, later in the week, Councilmember Flores asked us to consider a new map known as version 4. Also, subsequently, we received a request from Councilmember Moon that we revise version 2, which we've done, and we've received requests to revise version 4, which we've done. And we'd like to walk you through those changes to the minute as we weigh the relative merits of all three maps. So we have three proposed maps that are currently in play. Yes, ma'am.
Fernando, I'm sorry. I just need a quick moment of clarification because I reviewed the materials that you sent us yesterday evening and those that, that Leanne shared with us that had maps and data tables from Bickerstaff, and I believe that email was sent out at some time in the afternoon. Closer to the evening, we received a copy of this presentation that I think
Yes.
you're about to go through. And then we were just handed a set of maps that appeared to be different than the data that we received yesterday afternoon. And I just need clarification.
We will explain the distinctions.
So my question is these are in fact different maps than we received yesterday evening?
I think these are the same maps that you got yesterday evening.
So the map that I have here that says Map X Council Version 2 Revision 5, and then what I have from Bickerstaff.
That is the latest version of V2. Now, as we would like to explain in just a moment, Bickerstaff received our data on Friday of last week. And the Bickerstaff letter will explain their opinion as of Friday. Now, there have been some subsequent revisions that are not reflected specifically in that letter that we got yesterday from Bickerstaff. We will explain those. And we do have Phillip Arnold with us. He does have the latest information from us, and I think is prepared to comment on the latest information. I think you will find in most cases that the revisions subsequent to Friday do not appreciably change the data to such an extent that they would alter our legal counsel's opinion. However, we will let Mr. Arnold address that question. But yes, that's a good point. In fact, that's one of the things we want to explain is these changes, because we've been receiving requests from council members as recently as yesterday afternoon, and even into the evening. We've been working on these maps 24/7 since our last work session, and it's been everything we can do to keep abreast of everything the council has asked us to do. But we will give you the very latest.
First, let me say, I really, truly do appreciate the effort that your staff has put into these maps. And if Mayor would allow me about 90 seconds to make a statement.
Yeah.
When we sat here last week, there were two maps on the table. One that, we'll just call them the Nettles map and the Moon map. There were two maps on this table. We spent approximately, 3.5, 4 hours painstakingly going through at least one of those maps to adjust lines and to develop a map that gave District 7 what it needed, District 3 what it needed, District 6 what it needed, 5, 9, 8, 2, you name it. And during that meeting, it was requested by one of our fellow colleagues that we take a pause so that we can send these maps to Bickerstaff, so that we can have analysis. Because Councilman Flores said that he needed Bickerstaff analysis to be comfortable with making a decision. It was a request that several of us on this council were not exactly comfortable with, because we have been postponing this process for so long. However, out of respect to Councilman Flores, we honored his request, understood the position that he was in, and said, let's send these maps to Bickerstaff. And then, new map. It wasn't to send it to Bickerstaff. It was the opportunity to submit a new map. Fine. I have heartburn with that, and I'll take that up later. And we said on that day, and I said very openly, I would support that change, and I did. I supported moving it down, kicking it down the road another week so that we could have meaningful conversation. But the request that I made of all of my colleagues, and I believe I consulted with Fernando there, what is the deadline so that we can have all of this information to Bickerstaff, and so that we can have all of these tables and all of these maps to review the evening before, so that we can go through this and make a thorough and informed decision, not just for District 9, District 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, but for the betterment of Fort Worth, Texas. And I have no interest in discussing maps that we have not had the opportunity to thoroughly vet. And I feel like this is dishonest. It is not what we discussed here in council. I'm quite frankly disappointed in this process. And I would like us to move forward with an opinion that we have today. And I don't think it's fair to any of us to hand us a table and say, well, nothing's really changed. Because as we know, when we move one block or the other, it absolutely changes the entire dynamic of these maps. And that is not the thorough consideration that was requested of us last week. Thank you.
Go ahead, Carlos.
I appreciate my fellow council members' perspective on this, but let me make something clear, and Fernando, you can also add clarity to this. As far as a deadline following our Tuesday meeting then, I asked you that if you had some kind of hard, fast deadline, right? And you said, well, they had to be submitted, as soon as possible, to allow a reasonable amount of time for Bickerstaff to review these. One thing that came out of the Tuesday meeting that was very clear, and I want to reiterate, there are many in the community that felt that we have deviated significantly from map X, structurally and also from a map-making exercise point of view. V4 is a variant of prior V4, so it's not totally new. It took in input even from other council members as late as yesterday. Staff, was aware of some of those comments. I was aware of some, unaware of others. In the spirit of trying to incorporate and be respectful of every single council member's input to this, we try to incorporate that into the maps. And this is an iterative process. I know it's very frustrating for all around here. We have put in a lot of time on it, but I have also heard, and we as a council have also heard from the community of a concern of deviating significantly from map X. V4 is close in terms of a lineage to map X. And that's the point of why it was submitted. And that was done with the input from a lot of community members, COIs, like the Riverside Alliance. They contacted me. We tried in good faith to incorporate as much of this into the map. So again, just keep in mind this is an iterative process. It's frustrating for all of us. But again, we'll get through this. But in good faith, we have to look at all these. This is another opportunity for it. Maybe you can speak in terms of, and the deadline is, in the back of our minds, we have to observe that. If you could give us your assessment of where we are in the timeline.
Mayor, if I can't, you want?
Go ahead, Chris.
I'm sorry, Fernando. And we might get your presentation after the 10 o'clock meeting. Or we might not need it at all, Chair. I just want to go back to Map X, and I think, I don't want to put words in people's mouth, but over the 5 hours we was here last Tuesday, and including the mayor, I think we all was inconsistent with Map X not being in line with the city of Fort Worth. It drew up so many community of interest. It split them. It did not support the MMAs or the SMMAs. Actually, in Map X, we lose an MMA seat, and we just cannot afford to lose a diverse seat when we're trying to gain a diverse seat. And so, in all fairness, Map X is not a map that I don't think anybody can support. But what we have tried to do is work from Map X. And I think Michelle and Fernando eloquently put a package together that shows version 2.4 had 40 revisions, version 3.7 had 20 revisions, but they were revisions from Map X. And I think that I personally, as well as when I met with the mayor, she personally, when we had commentary from the community, every person that had comments, I wrote down what their comments were. And so I want to add to Councilman Flores' statements is that we all have heard from the community, and we all represent a district that we also have heard privately from. And so I can't support a map that takes an MMA seat away when we're trying to gain another one. And I cannot support a map that destroys community of interests. And frankly, that's what Map X does. And so that's where I stand.
Any other council comments? Councilmember Moon?
I just want to verify, Fernando, what you said, that is there any appreciable change in the demographics from the maps?
In respect to version 2, we don't think that the changes are significant, and we'll ask Mr. Arnold to confirm that opinion. In respect to version 4, the changes are more substantial. but perhaps not to such an extent that they would change the legal opinion about creating minority opportunity districts. And we'll walk through
Okay,
all three of these maps if you'd like.
thank you.
Any other comments, council? Go ahead, Fernando, thank you.
And so, just as a reminder, last Tuesday, we discussed version 2 and version 3. Version 2 has subsequently been revised and is depicted on the slide as map V2 as amended 2/19/22. I believe Councilor Moon met with some constituents over the weekend, and they suggested some minor changes that should not appreciably alter the demographic data or the findings about creation of minority opportunity districts. Version 3 was the subject of much discussion at your work session last Tuesday. You can see it depicted on the screen as map V3 as amended February 15th, 2022, last Tuesday. And finally, map V4 was introduced later in the week after your Tuesday work session and subsequently amended twice, most recently yesterday, hence the date February 21st, 2022. We have been trying to abide by requests from all council members in the interest of fairness, but we understand that addressing requests after we submitted the data to our outside counsel creates a situation whereby our outside counsel did not have the benefit of the latest data at the time that they issued an opinion to us. So if we could walk through all three of the maps, map V2 as amended February 19th, 2022, makes two minor changes to the previous version of V2. It moves Stone Glen into District 10 and moves part of Summerfields into District 4 in accordance with school attendance zones at the request of the affected neighborhoods. You can see the demographic data corresponding to map V2 as amended through last Saturday. And you can see, for example, that it has one Hispanic district with a high voting age population percentage and two other Hispanic districts with voting age percentages over 40%, 43.9 and 48.1% in map V2. The opinion from our outside counsel with respect to map V2 states that this plan creates one strong Hispanic district known as District 2. It creates one Hispanic opportunity district, District 9, but it's not so strong as to make it likely that it would elect a Hispanic. It's still a Hispanic opportunity district. It would create two strong African-American districts, Districts 5 and 8. And finally, it notes that District 6 could possibly also elect an African-American, as it has done in the recent past. So you can see a total of 5 minority opportunity districts in the opinion of Bickerstaff. Again, this is more of an art than a science, but in their opinion, it would create as many as 5 minority opportunity districts for map V2. Map V3, the one that we discussed at greatest length last Tuesday, reflects several changes that we made during that work session. It moves Fossil Creek into District 4. It moves Polytechnic Heights, Stop 6 Poly Oversight, and Old Handley, west of Loop 820, into District 11. Chapel Creek into District 7, Burton Hill, District 3, and the Bailey Triangle, west of University, into District 9. Those are the changes that the council discussed at your work session last Tuesday. And again, the demographic data for map V3, these data have not changed since last Tuesday, and they reflect the creation of two districts in which the Hispanic voting age population exceeds 50%. District 2 with 62.1% Hispanic voting age population, and District 11 with 52.2%. You'll recall that the council set that threshold of 52%. You are aiming to elevate the percentage to 52% so that it would constitute what in the minds of the council might be a Hispanic opportunity district, and that's what you did. So V3 reflects the achievement of that objective. The opinion from Bickerstaff, again, states that map V3 would create one strong Hispanic district, District 2, a second majority Hispanic district, District 11, two strong African-American districts, 5 and 8, and finally District 6 can be classified as an opportunity district as well, because African-American candidates would have a reasonable opportunity to be elected from District 6. And finally, map V4, as amended through yesterday, February 21st, would place all of the Camp Bowie district entirely in District 3. Now, V4, before it was amended, had put part of the Camp Bowie district in District 6 along with Como, but the most recent amendments put the Camp Bowie district entirely in District 3, which was a request from the District 3 council member. It puts Colonial Hills, or at least attempts to put Colonial Hills, Overton Park, and Tanglewood entirely in District 3. Now, if we take a close look at the map, and Michelle Swindle is prepared to lead us through that activity at your request, it may show that a handful of residences fall outside of the boundaries of District 3, and that can be easily corrected. But in essence, these three neighborhoods, which align with each other, as expressed by neighborhood leaders at your February 8th public hearing, those three neighborhoods are kept together as a community of interest, if you will, entirely in District 3 where they're located today. Map V4 also puts the heart of Stop 6, historic Stop 6, and Stop 6 Sunrise Edition entirely in District 5. And finally, at the request of the District 5 council member, puts the Lake Arlington waterfront entirely in District 5. That is to say, everything between Loop 820 and Lake Arlington would be in District 5. You can see the demographic data corresponding to map V4. And again, we've been focusing heavily upon the column that shows Hispanic voting age population percentage. District 2 would have a very high percentage of Hispanic voting age population, 67.9%. And District 11 would also have a very high percentage, 56.6% in map V4. Now, our outside counsel has noted that version 4 creates one strong Hispanic district, District 2, and what they described as one very good Hispanic opportunity district, District 11. Now, here's an important point that we put in boldface type. This plan creates the strongest Hispanic districts of any plan. But whether the Hispanic voting age population of District 11 is high enough to reliably elect a Hispanic is unknown. Therefore, it's probably a stretch to say that District 11 is likely, and so we have put it in the toss-up category, even though the Hispanic voting age population is well over 50%. Our outside counsel goes on to say that map V4 creates two strong African-American districts, Districts 5 and 8, and one African-American opportunity district, District 6. So in seeking to summarize what we heard from our outside counsel, we see that the numbers line up precisely the same for all three of the maps according to that classification system. Each of the three maps that are currently under consideration would create 5 minority opportunity districts. And even though Bickerstaff notes that map V4 gives the greatest weight to Hispanic opportunity districts, it's still only one likely Hispanic 2 likely African-American, and 2 toss-up districts.
Fernando, if I could ask one clarifying question on V3, I noticed that the legal opinion didn't evaluate District 9. What's the evaluation on District 9? Because I noticed that on the table it was listed as an MMA, which would mean
Yes.
that there's 6 instead of 5.
Well, an MMA, majority minority district, as we've discussed, does not necessarily correspond to a minority opportunity district. And I think this would be a good opportunity to ask Mr. Arnold if he's prepared to comment on District 9 as it appears in map V3.
Yes, sir. Thank you all for having me. So District 9 in map version 3, or 7 is how I'm identifying it. This map was changed over the last couple of days. So
Map V3 should not have been changed.
Right. So this is showing Hispanic voting age population of 43.8%.
That's correct.
And a white voting age population of 41.6%. And generally, when we look at, we've looked at citizen voting age population data for these districts, and it's based on ACS community survey data, not based on the census data. So it's a different set of data. But what it shows, generally speaking, across the board for Fort Worth, is you're going to lose somewhere between 5 and 10%, maybe even more than 10%, of your Hispanic voting age population when you adjust only for citizenship. So in that case, if we look at District 9 in version 3, and you have a voting age population of Hispanics of 43.8%, and you adjust that down, roughly 10%, that's necessarily going to increase the white voting age population just because they're reflections of each other as percentages. And so District 9 in that case is more than likely going to be, have a much higher white voting age population, citizen voting age population than any other group.
Thank you, Mr. Arnold. Again, the point is that even though the District 9 under map V3 has a relatively high Hispanic voting age population, over 40%, it's not high enough to make it a Hispanic opportunity district.
Right, and that's not what I was referring
I'm sorry.
to. Yeah, I was referring to it as an MMA. None of the other maps have a 6 that gets
Okay,
that
you may
close.
save
That's what I was
6
saying.
majority minority districts, yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to make a comment for the record. I know we have to break and go to council, but I just want to be clear, map 4 doesn't entirely pull in Colonial Hills, maybe as defined. It's been a problem as it is now with having 2 council members and who represents it. I've heard from them. It also bifurcates Overton Park, so it doesn't do exactly what you said on there. And I want to be clear, too, that Camp Bowie District, the part for all maps should be pulled in together. They already split with 2 representatives, and the portion that we're talking about that's on the south side of Camp Bowie is all commercial with 0 population. So that should be easy to do.
That's correct. That's been done. And I think if Michelle Swindle, perhaps later today, were to show us the map of Colonial Hills and Overton Park, the map that I saw includes 98% of those neighborhoods in District 3. Those neighborhoods are not split significantly, but we can look at it, and to the extent that there may be some households lying outside of District 3, it should be a simple task.
That's where I just want to get back. If you look at the other 2 maps, it uses university as a dividing line, which has been on either side. Those are all communities of interest. They may not have registered. We've already gone down this path of who's registered, who hasn't registered. But I can tell you, because I knocked those doors, I know those people, et cetera, that university dividing line is a much more clear dividing line of who's in and who's not. So I want to put it on the record. We don't have to go through that. I just want to make sure that's on the record.
I believe I spoke to Melissa about that very thing, Michael, and she checked it. Unless I misunderstood, I thought that check was valid. But like Fernando said, that's adjustable.
Yeah, and when you called me on Friday and we talked about it, I want to say, you asked what would need to be done, and I said, I wouldn't support any map that splits Colonial Hills and Tanglewood out, but the university as a dividing line makes sense. And it's an easy, clear for anybody that lives there, they know this is the dividing line.
Any other quick comments from council before we break?
Yeah, Michelle.
Go ahead.
When we go to break, can you, for this new map, One, I'd like to see the list of communities of interest, or specifically neighborhoods that are split up in that. And it's hard, that map really goes into some neighborhoods and cuts up a lot of stuff. And so it'd be helpful to have a more detailed look even than this bigger map, because I can already tell you there's one neighborhood split up in here that is a registered community of interest, a Hispanic community of interest that is bifurcated, and they're not happy.
Well, let's do the same for all the maps. If we do it for one, we do it for all. That way we can have a global view of it.
Sure, we don't need to do it for map version 3.7 because we went through that last week and we have, true to our word, not made any changes.
Leanne?
We only have Mr. Arnold for this morning, so if it's okay with you all, if he could just go ahead and speak to the changes and any impact that makes to his opinion, and then we could break.
That'd be great. Thank you,
All right.
Leanne.
Phillip?
Thank you. Obviously, map 3, version 3 did not change. The changes to version 2 are minimal. It's almost difficult to identify the changes to version 2. That would not change our opinion at all. Version 4 had some changes, but really the changes made to version 4 would increase, generally speaking, Hispanic voting age population in 3 districts, and I believe increased African American voting age population in 2 districts, and then slightly decreased it in District 8 by about a percentage point. So not enough to change our opinion, but it does appear to generally make the minority opportunity districts or majority minority districts stronger than they were before.
Any other questions for Mr. Arnold? Jared?
Just one last comment. I noticed on some of the maps in consideration that Wedgewood Square and Wedgewood East are separated. I think they should stay in one district, so I wanted to put that on the record. And I think we can make those adjustments. Just wanted to lift that up.
Thank you.
Wedgewood Square. Wedgewood East. Mm-hmm.
Any other discussion before we break, council? Okay, we're going to break and go to council meeting. Thank you.